Welcome everyone to your next Java break. Today we are going to discuss how to transform your BBX cloud deployments with the Basis Transformer AMI. I'm Dr. Kevin King, President and CIO of Basis International. The Basis Transformer AMI is a whole lot prettier than this ugly guy you see here to the right. We're going to spend the next 30 minutes or so talking about how to transform your BBX cloud deployments using the Basis Transformer AMI. We'll discuss the benefits of the cloud to you and your customers. We'll talk about several examples that I think everybody can use. We'll talk about what the benefits are of using the Basis Transformer AMI. And we'll talk about the real miracle, how it is that we managed to turn one image into 5 different machines or 5 different instances. And we're also going to talk about scalability. It's one thing to have a single image that goes into 5 different machines, but what can you do with those 5 different machines? We'll talk about how to scale all 5 of the different types in 5 different ways. And then, of course, at the end, we'll take your questions and come up with answers either right away or in the days to come. So let's get started. Benefits of the cloud, what are they? Well, there are a bunch of them, and I've got a lot of unlimiteds here. We start out with unlimited power. Not only do they have all of the power you can imagine going to the data center, they also have backup power. So if something happens to the primary, they have a secondary. They've got almost unlimited hardware. You'll be able to see pictures of that before. More hardware than you've ever seen in your life. Unlimited disk space, probably not unlimited, but I'll bet you that they can buy it faster than you can use it up. So for that reason, I call it unlimited disk space. Impenetrable security. It certainly got more security than any of the facilities around our own office or around any of our customers' offices. I suspect with nuclear penetration, they might have a little trouble, but we won't have any trouble because we'll be in more than one region and a different regional takeover where that region left off. Unlimited bandwidth. It certainly is going to feel like and look like unlimited bandwidth compared to any bandwidth we have ever experienced in our lives. Similarly, it's got unlimited scalability. You saw that we had 5 by 5, and we'll go into more detail to see just how far and wide that scalability will go. And, of course, we finish with unlimited capacity. It really is not unlimited, but if you call the cloud your playground, then you can never outrun the capacity of the Amazon cloud system. So for the purposes of this conversation, it is effectively unlimited. Well, the cloud is a very exciting place. It's on the top of everybody's mind, but what good is it? Who can use it? Well, we find it very handy as a demo machine. It's nice to always have a machine that you can call up at any time from anywhere, and it's already set up to do whatever demo you might need to do. As a replication machine, we've had numerous customers fire up a machine in the cloud and configure it to start doing replication, and now they've got a remote backup database that is near real time, always ready to pull from if they ever have any trouble with their local database. Production machine. We at Basis have been using several cloud machines for our production system for the last several years, and we have benefited from all of the features that we're going to talk about in this presentation today. Backup machine. Backup machines are often the leftover machines relegated to the dustbin of history, or just before they get to the dustbin of history, they are used as backup machines. Don't need a lot of power to hold the data, but if you don't have one, it's always nice to fire one up in the cloud, and then if something happens to your primary or the building, you've got a backup a long way away that is easy to retrieve. Test machine. I know many of you have finished a project and needed to test it before going to production, and there's no machine around that is comparable to your production machine, so it won't be a good test. That'll never be the case in the cloud because there's always another machine just 1 or 2 clicks away that is exactly like the one you're currently running in production. So it is a wonderful environment to have identical test machine or machines as you're currently running in production. And finally, as a development machine, we certainly have been toying with some concepts of being able to configure a single machine, and then whichever developers wake up in the morning and want to get fired up and configured, there's no development time that is wasted on reconfiguring a misconfigured machine, because the development machine in the cloud is already pre-configured. You can start 1 or 1,000 and they all are properly configured. Very interesting idea for using a different way to use the cloud. And finally, data warehousing machines. We currently are using data warehousing machines in a couple of different regions here at Basis, because we find that sometimes when people are building ad hoc queries, they build a query that might run for several hours or several days, and that can have a negative impact on the primary machine. So if they're doing all of their queries on a data warehouse machine up in the cloud, there's no chance that anybody on a production machine will feel the pull of those long-winded queries. So it's a very handy concept for how you might use a cloud machine. Oh my goodness. Nothing but naked, raw power. Have you ever seen so much in your life? I mean, this is better than a kid in a candy store, a geek in a data center. But what am I going to do with it? How do I put these machines to work for me, in my company, or my customer? They're just machines that can't do anything until an AMI tells them what to do. That's where the Basis Transformer AMI comes in. It is already pre-configured with the current version of the operating system. It is pre-configured with the current version of Java. It's got the current version of BBJ. It also has the current version of Barista and the ERP building blocks. It also has a current version of the latest browsers and a current version of security patches. You can see this building list. You can begin to understand the power and value of using a Basis Transformer AMI to launch your machines, so that you don't have to waste time upgrading the operating system, or upgrading Java, or upgrading BBJ, or upgrading Barista, or upgrading your building blocks, or upgrading your browsers, or putting on security patches, or even upgrading the most recent version of the backup software, because they are already upgraded on the next version of the Basis Transformer AMI that is sitting in the cloud, waiting for you to swap it out for the last version of the Basis Transformer AMI that you were using to run your machines. We talked earlier about the importance of scalability. We're going to talk about the 5 different ways that these can be scaled right now. Machines are available with CPUs from 1 to 26. They're available with RAM of 1.7 gig or so, up to about 613 gig of RAM. I've never seen such a box before the cloud came along, but it's sure nice to know it's there if I need it. Disk speeds, they can go from the traditional platter type speeds, 500 megabits per second, up to 2,000 megabytes per second, which is what you can get with solid state drives, and those are all available up in the cloud at your choosing. Now we come to the scalability that comes from having Basis and BBJ already pre-configured on these machines. You can fire them up to be a 1-tier machine, a 2-tier machine, or a 3-tier machine, or any combination that you want. Another couple of really nice features is the 1st and 2nd tiers are all auto-scalable and load balanceable. So if you need those features and the ability to have multiple machines at either the first or second tier or both tiers, it's all possible with a couple of clicks of the mouse on the interface that you have up in the cloud. Now we're getting down to the meat of it. We've got a little symbol here. We've painted it gold, or tried to paint it gold, because we think that our data is really our gold. And we assume that most of the rest of the world thinks that their data is also the most important thing. And in order to use the cloud, most of the time, you're going to need to get your data up onto a drive in the cloud. So what are we talking about with my data? Well, we've got the traditional view of data, but you also need to put your applications there, your licenses, your configuration, your scripts, and any other persistent stuff that you need to run your business or run your applications. And once it's up in the cloud, then all you have to do is mount it on a machine that does the database work, and the world is your oyster. You can do anything and everything you could ever imagine a computer could do, because your data is on a drive that you can mount to any instance that's fired up that can run a database. Well, now comes the big reveal. We've talked about this being a transformer AMI session. Why do we call it a transformer AMI? It's because one image, one Amazon machine image, can be launched through a variety of parameters to come up and behave in 5 different ways. The first way is as a display machine. The second way is as an interpreter machine. Third way is a database machine. And of course, then comes the hybrid with the interpreters and database all on a single machine, or the all-in-one machine, sort of the desktop type machine up in the cloud. And all of that comes from one single AMI maintained by Basis, and you just launch it in any one of these 5 ways, and it's pre-configured to run all the software needed to function in these 5 different configurations. As I mentioned before, Transformer for Basis is not that big ugly guy on the front page. It's more represented by these handsome guys that we have also color-coded. So in this case, yellow is the display machine. It is, of course, what is used to power the thin clients. If you want to know what kind of scalability options that you have at this level, of course, you can have 1 to 26 CPUs, RAM from roughly 2 gig to 613 gig. It's auto-scalable, and of course, it is load balanceable as well. The next machine, almost as handsome as the prior one, but he's red. And the reason it's red is we want you to be able to follow along as we describe the various functionalities that are available on these machines. 5 different ways from one single image. In this case, red is for the interpreter. It's where you run your applications. It also has scalability that is quite extensive from 1 to 26 CPUs. RAM from 2 gig to 613 gig. It's auto-scalable. And of course, it is load balanceable as well. So now we have seen the first and the second of the 5 different ways that a transformer can come alive. Now, the third way, the database machine. He's blue, but the other clear distinction is every database machine has to have data mounted onto him, and it has to be your data so that it can function and perform everything that you might need to do with a computer in the cloud. So you have to start with your data. It can run the database, store procedures, triggers, data dictionary is stored there. Its scalability, because it requires a mounted drive, is to have a CPU from 1 to 26 and RAM from 2 gig to 613 gig, but it can't be scaled. and it can't be load balanced because it has a mounted drive, which loses its ability to be scaled or load balanced. But I've yet to meet somebody whose database couldn't be handled with 26 CPUs and 613 gig of RAM. But it'd be an interesting operation to see, wouldn't it? And of course, the most important part that makes this machine as fast and valuable as possible is that you can use platter drives or solid state drives, depending on how fast you need access to the data on your drive. Now you can see where the color coding begins to come in. You can see this is a hybrid machine. It has got the red front to indicate that it has the interpreter server running on it, as well as runs the applications. And it also has blue, which is what powers the database. All of these things are running in a single JVM when you bring up a hybrid machine, and it is viewed from a thin client desktop display somewhere in the world. Its scalability, again because it has a mounted drive, is limited to increasing whatever number of CPUs you want to use and however much memory that you want to throw at it. Now we come to the all-in-one transformer. This is sort of your desktop machine or developer machine. It is a machine that allows you to have everything in one. Your thin clients can run there, interpreters, applications, database, and its scalability, again, because it does have a mounted drive, is limited to scaling the machine as opposed to scaling the number of machines. So you can have CPUs or RAM in order to make it big enough and fast enough in order to do your bidding. For most of you who have been around BASIS for any length of time, you've heard us talking about the big benefits of BBJ or its ability to be two-tier or three-tier in its topology. Here's a representation of how we see this two-tier topology, and that is that you have one machine powering all of your interpreters and applications, and you have a separate machine that is powering your database. This two-tier topology allows you to begin to scale ever so slightly from a single machine to multiple machines. You can see the red machine is the application server and the blue machine is representing your database server along with your mounted drive that has all of your precious golden data on it. Three-tier topology. Now this is the pride and joy of BASIS, the ability to have three separate tiers, which gives you almost unlimited scalability. Starting at the basement, we have the database machine with a mounted drive at whatever speed that you would like, and then you have a load balance set of application servers at the middle tier, and then you can have an auto-scaled and load balance set of servers running up as display machines. Again, the most important part of this, they all are coming from a single transformer AMI that when launched has been handed particular parameters to have them come up as either a database machine, an interpreter machine, or a display machine. These display servers are the ones that are showing your thin clients, housing the thin clients. So the larger your company grows, the more of those auto-scaled machines that you're going to need. And through Amazon's autoscaler, you're able to set it up so it automatically goes from 1 to 100 and back again at night, or it can go from 2 to 50 depending on how you've configured it to do so. The same is true of the application servers. You go from 1 to 100 to follow the load curve and then back again, all automatically without you having to babysit it and keep adding servers or taking servers down based on whatever load your organization is enduring. And of course, finally, the database server with the mounted drive is the hub of it all, and they all revolve around that data, and it's all accessible across the network. Man, oh man, how many of these servers do you want? How many do you need? That's probably all you'll be able to afford, is how many you need, not how many you want. But it's certainly nice to look at this and daydream and imagine all the different things you can do if you could power any one of these machines with a basis transformer AMI. Your imagination really is the only limit. Basis has made it easy with the transformer AMI. Amazon made it cheap because they charge by the hour, and there's no commitment longer than 1 single hour. The smallest instances are available for only pennies. You can pick any region or many regions in which to run instances of the basis transformer AMI. You can also use CloudFront once you're in the cloud. That's a CDN, a content delivery network that puts all data nearest to your users. So if you have users that are scattered out across the US or around the world, CloudFront will make sure that the data is being served from the nearest server to that customer or user. Upgrades are almost instantaneous to users when you're up in the cloud, and I'll go into a little bit more detail about that in the next couple of slides. As you can imagine, after looking at those 40 to 50,000 servers in one single location, redundancy is trivial. And of course, failback is almost instantaneous. We've all attempted an upgrade of something somewhere in our lives and found out that it wasn't quite right, and we needed to fail back. And failing back was almost as miserable as going forward. But in the cloud, failing back can occur almost instantly because of the architecture and the availability of all of those excess servers. So we've spent the last 20 minutes talking about servers of every color and shape and size. But how can you see what is going on with those servers? How can you see the face of your application? Well, from your desktop, you can see it from the thin client, or you might use Remote Desktop Protocol, RDP, to view the face of the server or the application. Or you might even use a browser to view it if you're running BUI with BBJ. There's a huge proliferation of mobile devices in the world today. It's probably almost more prevalent than laptops today. Almost everyone has one mobile device in their pocket. And you can use that to interact with the servers up in the cloud using a Remote Desktop Protocol or RDP. Or if it's got a modern browser on it, which I think most of them do, you can interact with the application using BUI. So very easy ways to get access to viewing your cloud servers. And it's been our experience that the people using the application can't tell the difference of whether or not they are running against a server in the back room or they're running against a server somewhere in the cloud. I thought I would take a moment and go through a couple of the most trivial configurations that we could think of, so that if somebody wanted to get their feet wet, there would be a short, fast, easy way to put our transformer to the test. And so we thought we would use replication. We've got several customers that have already done this without our assistance, and so we thought with a little help it would be even easier. So in this case, we're doing a ground to cloud replication. Assume you continue to have your application running on servers in your own back room, but the board of directors or the executives have said we want to make sure we've got a solid replicated backup somewhere off-site. Well, if the cloud is an option, that's certainly somewhere off-site. And so you just need to check your latency and make sure that it is reasonable from your location to the cloud. Check bandwidth, make sure that it's wide enough to handle the load. and then you're ready to rock and roll. It's amazing how popular this replication has become in our community. So we just finished the slide that was sort of the sales and marketing spin about replication. I thought the more technical people might like to know what the steps are. It's pretty simple. You create your volume up in the cloud. That's where your data is going to need to go. And then you're going to launch a transformer, and you mount that drive or the volume onto that transformer, push your data to the cloud, create your replication job, start the replication. It's hard to imagine anything more simple than those 5 or 6 easy steps. So if I was going to start, that would certainly be an interesting place to start for production. Otherwise, a demo machine would be a good place to start. So, enough playing around. Let's just get serious. What does Basis do? Well, when we went to the cloud, this is what we did and what we're still doing today. This is our testing and upgrading procedures. We clone the cloud drive, so we've got something to test against, and what better to test against than the real live data. We'll launch a new instance from the new AMI version. For example, from 12.20 we would launch 12.21, and now we can begin to test. And we are testing in the exact same environment with the exact same machines in the exact same speed, where the only difference is the version of the OS or the version of the BBJ or the version of the browsers, whatever the upgrade was between 12.20 and 12.21. But everything else is identical, so that we know when we get ready to go push it into production that we will have tested with as identical of a system as we could possibly get. You can see that these are as identical as they can be, except for the upgrades to the version. But the hardware is the same, the data is the same, the network is the same, and the interaction with the test people is the same. So once you're happy with your testing, you can unmount the data off of the production machine, and you can mount it onto the upgraded instance. And as far as the customers are concerned, or the users are concerned, the upgrade occurred almost instantaneously, because you did all of your testing up in the cloud on identical hardware, on identical data, and ultimately the only thing you were testing were those new bits of software. And once you are happy with that test, how much easier could it be than to unmount a drive on the production version and mount it onto the test instance, and you're back into production. It's something that we go through here at Basis probably once or twice a month, because it is a part of our release process for the product. So we get lots of practice, and I guess because we were getting lots of practice, it was important for us to find the shortest, fastest way to do an upgrade. But more importantly than that, to find a way that we could upgrade, because we had tested with identical hardware. And if things aren't quite right after all of our testing, you can see how easy the failback would be, because you just unmount it from what is the new instance and remount it back on the old version, which is still sitting there waiting to be shut down if you in fact have completed your upgrade and want to move forward. But if not, the failback is trivial. So we've talked about all the exciting things that you can do with these cloud instances. We've talked about how simple we have made it to launch 5 different machines from one AMI. But once you get it launched, what if it isn't fast enough? Well, you can add more memory. If it's not fast enough, you can add a little bit, or you can add a lot, whichever you think needs to be done. Our experience with restarting these machines with more or less memory shows us that it doesn't take more than a a minute or so to go from a slow machine to a fast machine, or a fast machine back down to a slower machine, depending on how much money you want to spend or how much speed you need. It is all up to you. Do you still need a faster instance than that? Well, of course, memory isn't all it's cracked up to be. Sometimes you just need more horses. So you can add one all the way up to 26 CPUs. And that's just today. In the future, there's no telling how many CPUs might be available, but that's the configuration today. So sometimes all you need is one. We have customers who are running cloud machines with only one CPU, the slowest, smallest machine you can imagine, and it's doing replication in the cloud for some small installations. But if you need more than that, you can get up to 26. It's hard to imagine needing more than 26 CPUs to get the job done.
Thank you, Dr. King. I would imagine at this point our audience is wondering exactly how do I get started with the Basis AMI and what's it going to cost me? First things first, how do I get started? You're going to create an Amazon account, and that costs you exactly $0. Then you're going to pick a region or set of regions. You're going to decide on your topology or architecture, be it 1, 2, or 3 tier. You're going to populate the My Data drive that we talked about, and that includes your Basis license. And that license can be either a subscription or a permanent license, and naturally, you can move your existing licenses to that cloud. You launch the Basis Transformer instance, mount your drive, and you're off to the races. So what does this powerful AMI cost? 2 cents an hour on top of your Amazon fee. What does that equate to over time? It's $174 a year if you ran your machines 24/7. I'm going to leave that up there for a moment. Let that soak in. So what happens if you need additional help? With Basis's experience, I'd have you consider using our professional services. Our experience surely is your benefit. As Dr. King elaborated, Basis International runs exclusively in the cloud. From the list of machine types that Dr. King had laid out, we currently run literally all of them: demo, replication, test, production, and data warehousing for our queries. Take advantage of our experience and contact us. There was mention of cloud applications, and a perfect example of that is the Addon software cloud services. It's an affordable ERP solution for your customers that's quicker to deploy and delivers faster time to benefit. The Addon software ERP cloud services comes complete with hardware configuration, the size, the speed, automated backup, elastic load balancing. We include auto scaling, so there's no over or underused servers on your part, the OS licensing, including the licenses for Barista and Addon software itself. And what does that cost? We do all of this for $99 per user per month. And that includes the annual maintenance fee, so you're always up to date. So we've covered a lot of ground today. Dr. King walked us through the benefits of the cloud, gave us some examples, the AMI benefits, the concept of one image for 5 machines, scalable in 5 different ways. We touched on how to get started. And before we move you over to answering your questions, let's take a look at what's coming up as far as training. February is going to be a busy month, starting with DBMS training on the 7th. We have an event in Costa Rica from February 12th through the 14th, object-oriented programming on the 21st, and you see the rest there. Registration, basis.com/events. Also coming up is the Basis TechCon for 2013 in Las Vegas. It's May 13th through the 15th with post-conference training 16th through the 17th. So it's definitely time to jump to the cloud. Don't be left behind. And now let's take your questions.